So there are a few things on this car which I've done just to sort of like just have a laugh. One of them is the aerial, and it's a CB aerial, but at the same time it sort of does make it look like a remote control car. I took a photograph of it when I was in Germany in the Black Forest. We'd gone there for like a little run, and the shot of the car, it just made it, I don't know, it just made the car look like it was this big on the floor, and it just looked like a little radio control car, which I thought was hilarious. So I've just left it on. So on MX5s, some people just go way over the top and put like the largest spoiler that they can physically buy and purchase, and they are very big. Sometimes they have some function if it's a track car or time attack, hill climb, you know, it can provide downforce. But I've went the other way and found the smallest one and just stuck it on. I remember this one little kiddie like looking at it and was like, "Daddy, why has he got such a small spoiler?" And his dad was just like, "He's having a laugh, son." So he got it. But I'm sure there's some people out there like look at it and go, "What purpose can that possibly achieve?" It's like, well, it's just there to have a laugh, really. Why not? It stayed on at 120 miles an hour. Yeah. And it's only literally just stuck down with a bit of 3M tape. I was sort of half expecting it after that run to have gone poof. It didn't. This started out, actually it belonged to a customer of ours when we first started, and we were in the Shore Barn, our first workshop. We did some work on it and he sold it, and I always said that if he did sell it, I would be interested in buying it. I ended up buying it off of him. It didn't look like this in its state then, it was just black. And then I've owned the car for nearly 9 years, and then just slowly modified it and dug a deeper hole in my pocket. And it's just, yeah, it just grows. I've stopped modding it now. I've got to the point where I've sort of just want to leave it as it is and enjoy it, really. It's probably easier to tell you what I haven't modified. Where do I start? This was turboed. I turboed it when I first got it, and it was done in a sort of like, I would say, like a driveway mod, where it was done where anyone could have done what I did on their driveway, and it was nothing spectacular. And I just wanted to do something and push the boundaries of myself that I haven't pushed further, basically. A lot of people will be like, oh, you know, KG Works and all the original bits and pieces which you can buy. I was never really one that had to have the original. Sure. Plus I was also modifying it as well. So I sort of filled bits in, and I was going to change so much of it. It would have been sort of sacrilege to have got an original piece and then modified it in a way which you wouldn't have told that it was an original bit. When you modify a car, it always needs a little bit here and a little bit there, and that is part of the fun. I think I've got to that point because the power that this thing puts out of is, I just turn around and say it's 300 horsepower at the wheels, which isn't a lot of horsepower, but when you take into consideration the weight of these MX5s, it's quite a good power to weight ratio, and you don't really need anything more than that. People can put bigger wheels on it, and there's people in America that are pushing boundaries with the engine that's in this, with the 1.8 VVT with over 500 horsepower. But also where he lives, it's generally a lot hotter, and the roads are quite good. So in this country, I mean, this thing lets go in 4th gear. If like a morning like this morning, or it's mildly moist, and it's only in the summer when you've got 3 or 4 months where I can actually floor this and it will actually grip in 3rd gear and 4th gear. That's at the wheels. Yeah. It was dynoed, but the first dyno session was done in its early build, and it's sort of been upped since then. So I don't over-exaggerate, but in 1 year I blew up 6 engines. And people used to laugh at me for doing that. And this is going back sort of like 5, or maybe more than that, about 7 years ago. And a new engine was like £200, 150 quid. And it was a weekend's worth of work in the workshop. So it was modified, but I could turn it up. And it's always a dangerous thing. If you're a car guy and you've modded your car, and if you're able to turn the boost up from an arm's length when you're driving, it's a recipe for disaster. It wasn't just me, I've seen other people do it, but you get used to it. So you just think, oh, just another PSI, or just one more do. And I was always on that knife edge, and then I'd go and do something silly, and then like it would start knocking, or I've blown like massive smoke bombs out on the motorway and exploded my engine. just from being a bit silly, really. And I got sick and tired of weak points, so I ended up doing a stronger build, which I took the engine out. It was a 1.6, so I was going to rebuild it as a built 1.6, and then it made sense to maybe put the bigger engine in it, which is a 1.8 VVT engine out of the Mark 2.5. And then it just sort of escalated, where I then sort of built the manifold, turbo, chopped the front of the car off to change so many bits and pieces underneath the car, really. It's more like Trigger's Broom, this car. It's one of those cars which has had nearly every conceivable part changed.